Okay, may we now start our meeting with an opening prayer to be led to us by Yvette. Yvette, please. Okay, sira daw po ang mic ni Yvette. So may we have then Jayaps. Jayaps, how about you? Is your mic working? Jayaps? Jayaps? Sir, parang yesterday din po nagloloko. Okay then, so may we have then Roz, is it okay for you to lead the prayer?
Hello, sir. Good afternoon po.
Okay. Thank you, Roz. Please lead us the
Yes, sir.
prayer.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, thank you for this afternoon that you've given us. Thank you for the strong internet connection. And please, Lord, give us the knowledge and wisdom to cope up with the discussion this afternoon. And forgive us from all our sins. In Jesus' name we pray.
Amen. Okay, thank you for the beautiful prayer, Roz. So good afternoon, everyone. So today we will continue our discussion as regards assessment in the affective domain. So we hope that we could be able to discuss up to the important concepts or focal concepts as regards the affective domain before we proceed to the discussion on the development of assessment tools, okay, assessment tools for affective learning domain. And after we discuss the different assessment tools, then we proceed to our discussion on the performance task that you would be doing by next week. Okay, so may we have then this presentation for our discussion. So may we have a rundown first of what transcribed yesterday from our discussion. So as we made mention, the big idea of these units discussions that we can increase the likelihood of real and authentic learning among our learners if we are to assess the affective domain. If we consider the interests, the motivations, or even the other subjective energies of our students to let them be hooked up, okay? Let them be hooked up in our discussion or to our discussion. And of course, we made use of this passage from Thomas More as our springboard, okay, to discuss the importance of the affective domain, okay? And also, we already have discussed the different levels of the Bloom's or Krathwohl and Bloom's affective taxonomy. We made mention of receiving, responding, valuing, organization, and of course, characterization by value. Please take note also that we said that the last level or the highest level of the affective taxonomy may not necessarily be developed or achieved inside the classroom, as expertise on a certain value may take years before that could be developed. That's why this passage would remind us that teachers have to make sure that the 4 levels of the affective taxonomy have to be met or have to be achieved by our students while we are teaching them the content of our subject matter or the content of our lesson. It says learners have to respond to what they learn to value it, and to organize it. And of course, they cannot respond that easily without them receiving first the values we would like to integrate in the learning content. Okay, so we also made mention of the importance of the instructional objectives or outcomes. Okay, that our effective desired learning competencies have to be articulated using the instructional objectives or instructional outcomes format. Because we said that instructional objectives serve as the foundation upon where lessons and other assessment tasks are built on. We also made mention that these are tools to make sure that our learning goals or the course learning outcomes are achieved or are attained, and that it would ensure that learning is focused clearly enough that both students and teacher know what is going on from instructional activities to assessment tasks or assessment activities. We also have cited examples of instructional objectives or outcomes for each level of the affective taxonomy: receiving, responding, valuing, organization, and characterization by value. And we also try to, because I think, if I remember it right, Wendy asked a clarificatory question as regards the difference between valuing and organization. And we said that valuing is about commitment to exercise or demonstrate, the value being taught in class, meaning to say the values have been demonstrated, have been demonstrated voluntarily by the student, that the student needs not to be forced to exercise the value, but because the student has already learned, the importance of doing or demonstrating such value, that made her or him being involved and being committed in doing or exemplifying such values. Then organization is about using, this is about organization is about making use of that the making use of the values being valued, as a philosophy, as a philosophy in life, as a personal philosophy of the student. It becomes a personal philosophy that such value has already been integrated to another context, to another life experiences. Then characterization by value, as we have said, is something, or is the highest level among the affective taxonomy, because this pertains to the expertise of the student as regards the exercise of the value. So yung pagkakaiba ng tatlo. Now we proceed to the different behavioral objectives that we may make use in drafting or articulating our affective competencies. Meaning to say, when we are to create objectives or outcomes, then we have to make use of these behavioral verbs, because these are specific verbs, specific verbs that would allow us create smarter outcomes or smarter objectives. Under receiving, we have accept, attend, develop, and recognize. For example, accept that the family is the nursery of human nature. Accept that the family is the nursery of human nature. So that's an example of outcome or objective under receiving. Then we have responding. The verbs include complete, comply, cooperate, discuss, examine, obey, and respond. So we can also, another example or an example of objective or outcome under responding would be this. Discuss the role of the family in the human formation of individuals. Discuss the role of family in the human formation of individuals. The value that we are integrating here is the value of the importance of a family. The big concept is family, the big idea is family. This is the big concept or the big idea, and this is the value that we would like to integrate in the lesson. For example, we are discussing about social institutions, social institutions in sociology or in any social science or social studies subject. Again, The example, an example for responding is this: discuss the role of the family in the human formation of individuals. Then the next stage is valuing. Verbs under the valuing are accept, defend, devote, pursue, seek. So if you observe, accept are behavioral objective is a behavioral objective present under receiving and valuing. The only difference now is on how you are to make use of the word accept. Okay, because there are operational definitions. There are operational definitions that may happen. Okay, depending on the use of the verb accept in the statement or in the outcome statement or objective statement. Other than that, we have defend, devote, pursue, and seek. Okay, example of this is defend. Okay, defend that the family. Okay, defend that the family is the permanent institution for an individual. Defend that the family is the permanent institution for the for an individual. So that's an example of objective statement or outcome statement under valuing. Then next we have organization. Verbs under organization are the following: codify, discriminate, display, order, organize, systematize, and weigh. Okay. Example of a verb, example of an outcome statement or objective statement under this is weigh, weigh. Sorry for that. Um, Weigh which have to be weigh which decision has to be made between between family or career. Again, weigh which decision an individual has to make between family and career. Okay, that is under organization. And characterization, internalize or verify. We need not to make use of these verbs. If we think of another verb that would be appropriate for our outcome statement or objective statement, then we can do that. Okay, but of course, as we have said, as much as possible, teachers have to target the 4 levels of the affective taxonomy, because we said that characterization may happen or may take place for years, because we are referring to the expertise of an individual to a certain value here. Expertise in a certain value may happen or may take years before this level could be reached or could be attained by the student. So, for example, serve as a family counselor to a newlywed couple. Of course, students cannot do that because it would take years before you could consider yourself as a family counselor. Okay, so that is characterization or characterization by value or the highest level of the affective taxonomy. So that's an example of objectives or outcome statements under the unit on social institutions. As I think this is a subject in social studies or learning content in social studies or particularly in sociology. Okay, so before we continue our discussion, any question on this? Okay, any question on the first part of our discussion? Okay, for the sake of those who were just admitted in our class, we already have discussed the different behavioral verbs that have to be used. Okay, when we are to draft our affective learning outcome statements or learning objective statements. Okay, we made mention that an example for instance is a lesson on sociology or social studies, particularly on social institutions. For example, we would like to integrate the value of the family as our big idea or big concept in the lesson. So under receiving, our learning outcome statement would be this: accept that the family is the nursery of human nature. Under responding, we say discuss the role of the family in the human formation of individuals. Under After responding, under valuing, defend that the family is the permanent institution for an individual. Then organization, we have weigh weigh the decision of an individual, weigh the decision of an individual to choose between family and career. Okay, that's under organization, and characterization is serve as a marriage counselor to as a family counselor to a newlywed couple. So those are examples under each of the under each level of the affective taxonomy by Krathwohl and Blooms. So before we proceed to the next part of our discussion, we open the floor for clarificatory questions or other additional inputs so to better understand the concepts. Any question? Catherine, any question? While we are waiting for the others to structure their questions, okay, may I just remind everyone that please, as much as possible, you make use of your real name, okay, as your name in our Google Meet, okay? So for me to avoid confusion, because sometimes I am confused with the names of some of you, particularly JAPS, if it would be possible that you change your name to your real name, because it's really confusing. And of course, you also try to check your profile picture, okay, in your Google Meet account, particularly in your Gmail account. Charlemagne, you might want to change your picture into something more formal. Charlemagne, if that would be possible.
Okay po, sir.
Thank you. And also, yeah, Lovernil, to make it more formal also. Jmar, please upload a photo, a formal photo. So for me to at least master your
Okay po,
face.
sir. Sige
Okay,
po, sir.
yes. Okay, thank you for, yeah, even Romel 1, please also Romel and Annabelle. Baka mas formal looking ang pwede nyo ilagay. Pwede naman yung picture nyo sa ID, that would be better. Okay? So, Great Pi has left the meeting. Okay, any more question or shall we continue our discussion now? Paano po mag-change ng name, sir, ha? Taong Kuweba kasi, sir, wala learning. Okay, from Great Pi. Okay. Anyway, we'll teach you later. Okay, now, may we now continue our discussion? So if there are no more questions, then we continue our discussion then. So, we now proceed to the focal concepts, okay, as regards the affective domain. So this mind map or this graphic organizer will help us, okay, remember the different concepts, okay, that pertain to the affective domain of learning. There are three focal concepts that we need to understand. The first one, we have attitudes. Second is motivation. And third is self-efficacy. Okay? And third is self-efficacy. Now, when we say attitudes, attitudes have four components. We have cognition, affect, behavioral intention, and evaluation. Motivation has two types, intrinsic and extrinsic. Okay? We now proceed to the definition of attitude. May I request one to share his definition of attitude as he or she shared it in the learning conversation you had last week? What do we mean by attitude? How do you define attitude or this term attitude? Maybe we listen to Isaiah. Isaiah or Isaac? Isaiah, please. Is Isaiah around? I think I have added him a while back. I have admitted him a while back. Isaiah, please share to me your definition of attitude. If your mic is not working, you may encode it in the chat box. Isaiah? Hello, Isaiah? Isaiah is not responding. May we then listen to Ron? Ron, please. Hello, Ron? Mahina daw ang internet connection ni Isaiah ngayon. May we listen to Ron then? Ron?
Sir, can you repeat po the question?
Yeah, please share to us your definition of attitude as you define it in your learning conversation last week. How did you define attitude?
Is how we feel towards a person or an object, sir.
Okay, attitude is how we feel towards a person or a subject, okay, or an object, okay? So that's how Ron defined, okay, defined attitude. But later, as our discussion would progress, we will check whether the definition of Ron as regards attitude is a complete definition, or maybe his definition may just fall under may just fall to one of the components of attitudes as we are to discuss the details of the different components of attitudes. Okay, so Ron said it's about how we feel about others. Attitude, it's about our feelings about others or feelings about certain objects or certain subjects. Any other definition aside from that definition provided by Ron? May we listen to Roz, definition, please.
Sir, we have the same definition, sir, for
Okay.
attitude is the way we feel about something, sir.
Okay, it's the way we feel about something. So the key word in the definition of Roz and Ron is feeling. Tama? The key word is feeling.
Sir.
It's about how we feel. Okay, feeling about certain things. Okay, any different definition? Lover Neil? Lover Neil, do you have any definition of attitude?
Sir, type ko lang po, iyak po kasi yung bata, sir.
Wala ka, may anak ka na?
Pamangkin ko po, sir.
Okay. Umiyak daw. O, sige, patahanin mo muna. Okay, so may we listen then to, okay, sabi ni J-Yaps, sir, it's a projection of how we feel and how we should feel and how others will feel about us. Okay, that's a good definition, J-Yaps. Okay, please refrain from making use of informal words when we do formal discussion, J-Yaps, ha? Okay, meron siyang nilagay kasi na charot. Okay, sabi niya, so it's a projection of how we feel and how we should feel and how others will feel about us. Okay, please take note that the three definitions, okay, the three definitions are the same when it comes to the big idea, and their big idea is the word feel, okay, or feeling. Okay, sabi ni Lover Neil, sir, it is how we deal to others. So it's how we deal with people. It's how we deal with others. So this is another definition. It's about our actions towards others. So it's not just about our feeling, sabi ni Lover Neil, but it's also about our actions towards others, how we deal with others. Okay? It's not just about our feeling or our feeling about others, but it's already how we deal with them, our actions towards them. Okay? And Jovert said, this is another definition. Jovert said, it's the way we evaluate or interpret things. So it's already the perspective aspect. Okay? how do we see things, not just how do we feel things, but how do we see things. Okay, so there are three important words being mentioned by these definitions being shared by your classmates. The three important words are feel, see, and deal. Feel, see, and act. Feel, perceive, and deal. Okay, so these are three important words. So may we continue our discussion. Okay, so that's how we define attitudes. Now we proceed now to the four components of attitudes. The first one is cognition. So cognition refers to our beliefs, theories, expectancies, cause and effect beliefs, and perceptions relative to the focal object. So anything that we believe in about something else, about someone else, is what we call as cognition. And cognition, as being defined by the book that we're referring from, okay, is a component of attitude. So I mean to say, the affective domain is not merely about, it's not just merely about emotions. It is not just merely about the heart, but also how the brain, how our thinking affects how we see others, affects our belief of others. Okay? So ito sabi natin, cognition as a component of attitude refers to beliefs, theories, expectancies. These are statements of beliefs and expectations which vary from one individual to the next. So we have different beliefs as regards a certain object. We have different beliefs as regards, for example, as regards a particular person. Okay? So for example, what is your belief about love? What is your theory about love? Okay? What is your perception or how do you perceive love? Okay? If those questions are asked of you, your responses will automatically be part of your cognition, your belief about something else. Okay? That's cognition. Okay? Now, dito papasok yung sinasabi kanina ni Jovert na it's our perceptions about something else. Okay? Or it's how we see things. Okay? See is synonymous with how we believe something to be as it is. Okay? So that's cognition. Now we proceed to the next component, it's affect. Okay. So again, the key word under cognition is perception and belief. Okay? Perception and belief, or how do we see things? That's cognition. Now we proceed to the next one, affect. Dito pumapasok yung definition ni J.Yaps, ni John Paul, definition ni Ron, at definition ni Ross, when they said it's about feeling about something else. So that's another component of attitude, and that is called affect. It's the feeling with respect to the focal objects such as fear, liking, or anger. For instance, the color blue evokes different feelings for different individuals. Blue may mean calmness, blue may mean peacefulness, blue may mean sadness, and others. Okay? So there are different, we feel different things, or we have different feelings about certain objects, about a single object, or a single individual. So, magkakaiba tayong pakiramdam. Okay? So, the root word here is feeling. The important concept here under this component is feeling. How do we see things? How do we feel about things? Okay? So, again, when we say cognition, how do we see things? How do we perceive things? That's cognition. How do we feel about things? That's affect. And next is behavioral intentions. These are goals or aspirations and expected responses to the attitude object. So meaning to say, this is now the definition of Loverneal when he said that it's about how we deal with people, how we respond to people, how we respond to things. And these are what we call as behavioral intentions. Okay? So this is how I perceive love. This is how I feel about love, and this is what I do now with my This is what I do now as regards my feeling and as regards my perception about love. Okay? So, when you act out what you see, what you perceive, and what you feel, that is already the behavioral intention that we are referring to. Okay? And next is, after doing, okay, after acting out what we believe in, what we feel about, what we feel in, should I say, what we feel about, then that's the time that we have to evaluate our action. Okay? Do our actions good or bad? Okay? Then that's now the evaluation component of attitude. Okay? Because our actions as regards our belief and as regards our feeling may be bad or may be good. Okay, for example, okay, we stop sharing, maybe process these components of attitude. Okay, maybe listen to, we will do a conversation with, wala na siya, nasaan na si Benjamin. Si Charlemagne na lang, Charlemagne, may we have a conversation. Okay.
Yes po, sir.
Charlemagne, what is your belief about love?
For me, sir, love is something that gives you
Love is something that,
pain and at the same time
okay, sige. Love is
happiness.
something that gives you pain and
And at the
happiness.
same time, yes, sir.
Okay, so that is the belief of Charlemagne as regards love. Sabi ni Charlemagne, Sir, love is something that gives you pain and happiness. Okay, now, that's how you perceive about love. That's your perception about love, your belief about love. The next question, Charlemagne, is this. What do you feel about love?
I don't
What do you feel about love?
no.
Huh?
Okay. So, ang hirap ng tanong.
Okay, let me ask you first. Of course, your answer, your response to the question may be rooted from your experience. Do you have a girlfriend now?
Wala po, sir.
Wala. But are you seeing someone?
Wala po, sir.
Wala pa.
Wala po, sir.
Have you experienced having a significant relationship with someone?
Opo, sir.
Okay, because I've seen that in your Facebook, no? Okay, parang meron kang ex doon. Okay. Now, what was your feeling then about love when you were in a relationship?
It's all about happiness, ganun, sir. Yung...
You're happy.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, sir.
Okay, so this is your feeling. Parang when you love, the feeling that love evokes is happiness.
Yes, sir.
So I'm happy when I'm in love. Tama ba? Yun ang statement mo dapat?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Though your definition about love is a while back, your belief about love or your perception about love a while back is it's something that gives you pain and happiness.
Yes,
But
sir.
rooting from your experience with your ex, you said that when I'm in love, I am happy. Okay. So that's the feeling. Love for the feeling of love for Charlemagne is happiness. The perception of Charlemagne about love is something that gives pain and happiness. Good. There's consistency there. Okay, so there's a consistent attitude of Charlemagne as regards how he sees love and how he feels about love. Okay, good. Now the next question, Charlemagne. Okay.
Yes, po, sir.
When you were in that relationship, what did you do to show that you love that someone? What are the things that you did for that someone you love?
I showed effort, sir. Mm,
You showed effort.
Effort, yes, sir.
Okay.
And of course, talagang inaalagaan ko siya ganun, sir.
Talagang
Care.
inaalagaan mo siya.
Yes.
Paanong pag-aalaga?
Ah, yung yung natural na pag-aalaga lang, sir.
Walang pag-aalaga. Okay, so you exerted efforts to show how you love that someone. Okay? Yung sabi mo, you have taken care of that someone you love. Okay? Anong effort? Paano yung effort?
Ah, yung special day namin ganun, sir. Yung mga surprises, ganun.
Never mo siyang inaway.
Inaway, sir, pag may hindi yung may conflict lang, yung mga may maliit lang na bagay na hindi
Okay,
pagkaintindi.
very good. So sabi ni Charlemagne, I exerted effort, sir, especially during our anniversaries. Okay, baka mamaya sinelebrate pa ninyo ang inyong minitsary, no? Or secondsary. Okay, hindi naman. Okay, so that's it. Yun yung actions niya towards love. Now, Charlemagne has to evaluate, okay, his actions about love. Do you think the things that you did, okay, are good or bad?
Sir, ano ko yung question, sir?
Yung mga ginawa mo ba na effort at yung pag-aalaga doon sa iniibig mo nung nakaraan ay mabuti o hindi mabuti?
Mabuti naman po, sir.
Mabuti naman.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so mabuti naman siya. So sa tingin mo mabuti siya.
Oh, sir, deserve naman po, sir.
Kahit na nag-break kayo.
Oh, sir.
So kumbaga, sa tingin mo, walang mali sa part mo nung nag-break kayo.
Meron, sir. Meron
So
din.
sabi natin, hindi kaya meron, tama? Okay, hindi kaya meron. That's how we evaluate our attitudes eh. That's how we evaluate how do we do things, no? Hindi porke, for example, para sa akin mabuti siya. But you consider the experiences. Okay? So, thank you Charlemagne for answering the questions because that's the way so that your classmates would understand the differences of all these components and the different components of attitudes. Okay, thank you Charlemagne. And there are already comments here. Sabi nila dito, Charlemagne, JF said, moreover, attitude is sometimes a reflection of our personality character. Yeah, we will be discussing about that later, Great Pi. Later, John Paul. Jovin said, unconditional. Haha, sad boy, sabi ni Lover Neil. Sad boy ka daw, Charlemagne. Sabi ni Jovin, sana all. Richard David De Ocampo, paalaga naman name. O hindi pwede yan. Chard. May nag-aalaga na ata sa'yo, Chard. Okay? Then, dali ka major muna, so ako muna. Si Lover Neil. Sana all, haha. Great Pi, love is a magical and mysterious unifying power that has been the reason why we exist and why we should exist. So that's your belief about love, Great Pi. Okay? So, nakita ninyo yung kalakayan natin ng pagkakaiba ng bawat komponente ng attitudes. Okay ba? Malinaw ba?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you, Jovert, for responding. Jovins, any reaction? Love makes the world go round. Gasgas na yan, sino yan si Rachel? Gasgas na yan, Rachel. Yung love...
Kaya nga, cliche, sir, di ba? It's called cliche for ano.
Nung ano ko pa yan, nung grade 1 ko pa ganyan, narinig ko na.
Saktong grade 1 tayo.
Ay, magkagad ba tayo?
Oo.
Ay, totoo? Hindi, makasatanda ako.
Nasa kabilang room ka lang. Joke lang, sir.
Section A ka, no? Section B ako noon. Oo, tama pala. Jovins, any reaction, Jovins? Kaya natin yung comment ni na-trigger ako din sa comment ni ni sino to? ni Richard. Richard David de Ocampo. Sabi niya, yung kanina, paalaga naman, main. Chard, hindi kayo nasabi mo ito kasi kulang ka sa pag-aalaga?
Sir?
Sir. Kulang ka ba sa alaga, Chard?
Sir, naghahanap ako ng mag-aalaga sa akin.
Jovis, naghanap ka na mag-aalaga sa'yo? Chard, si Chard ayaw mo?
Ay, bawal ang sister to sister, sir.
Bawal ang?
Ang Barbie to Barbie, sir.
Okay, Chard.
Sir, anong pagkakaiba ng kulang sa alaga at kulang sa aruga?
Ano ba iba yun? Okay. Ang aruga ay isang malalim na konsepto. Mas malalim siya sa pag-aalaga. Ang alaga kasi it's just a manifestation of care to someone else. But aruga is the totality of your concern. Okay, if you're concerned about someone else. Iba yung magkaiba yun. Mas malalim ang mas malawak at malalim ang sakop ng aruga sa alaga. Ang aruga kasi is meron pa ring ang alaga kasi is you might just be training the person to be too dependent. Okay, to be too dependent. Ang aruga kasi is parang you're teaching the person to be of himself. Okay, while empowering or while sustaining his holistic needs. That's aruga. Okay, so much for that. May we now continue our discussion. Thank you for the sharing, and Charlemagne, thank you for being so sport in answering the questions so that your classmates would fully understand the concepts that we are discussing. So may we now continue. So that's evaluation and others. Now, we proceed to the next part of our discussion, and this question has been asked of you, okay, in your learning conversation. We ask this question: why do we need to study about attitudes? Why is the study of attitude important? Okay, the first one is because it influences the way we act and think in the social communities we belong. That's very true. Okay, our attitudes, influence the way we do things and the way we think about things in our respective circles, in our respective communities. Okay? Kaya sinasabi natin, there's no, when we say attitude, it may be bad or it may be good. Okay? So kaya na uso yung term na, meron siyang attitude tong bata na ito. That expression has been used to mean that the person is exemplifying or demonstrating in a bad attitude or a negative attitude. But not all attitudes are bad, because there are also good attitudes. Okay, that we also have to put value into it, that we also have to put value into it. Okay, so kaya nga we need to evaluate the way we act as regards something, as regards an object or towards a certain subject, because our actions may be bad or may be good. Doon papasok yung sabi natin good attitudes and bad attitudes. Okay. Now, second, it also serves as frameworks and references for forming conclusions and interpreting or acting for or against an individuals, a concept, or an idea. So meaning to say, we should not just, that's why evaluation is a very important component or the most important component of attitudes. Why is evaluation a very important component? Because sometimes if we just have to act out things based on our gut feels, based on our personal feelings, based on our personal belief, without even qualifying whether our belief is right or not about a certain person, then that may not be good. Okay? That's why it's very important that when we act out things, we need to evaluate our actions so that we can improve ourselves the next time that we deal with people, the next time that we deal with a certain object. Katulad ng tanong ko kanina kay Charlemagne, kay Maine, ang tanong ko sa kanya kanina, sa tingin mo ba maganda yung ginawa mong effort at maganda yung ginawa mong effort at ginawa mong pag-aalaga? Sabi niya, oo. But when I asked him, bakit kayo nag-break kung naging maganda? So maybe there is something wrong with how you with how with how that person have treated his or her ex-girlfriend. Pero hindi ko sinasabi na, let me just check this, no? Hindi ko sinasabi na kapag nagbe-break ang nagbe-break ang significant lovers or romantic lovers, hindi ko sinasabi na yung nag-initiate ng break, yung nag-initiate ng break, yung hindi nag-initiate ng breakup ang merong kasalanan. Na yung nakipag-break ang nagsawa sa relasyon at nakita niya yung kasalanan nung kanyang significant other. Okay, hindi ko ibig sabihin yon. Since that is a relationship, whether we like it or not, if that is a relationship, whether we like it or not, there will always be a fault by both parties. Hindi porke na hindi ibig sabihin na kasalanan lang ni lalaki, hindi naman ibig sabihin na kasalanan lamang ni babae, hindi ibig sabihin na kasalanan lamang ng isang tao, kasalanan ng kabilang tao. Okay, but the experiences of these couple as regards the relationship after breakup have to be evaluated. Nang sa ganun, natututo pa rin tayo doon sa mga actions natin. Okay? Kaya nga sabi natin, our attitudes have to be always evaluated, that we have to do a lot of reflection when we are to evaluate our attitudes so that we will be learning from them. Okay? Para na sa ganun, the next time that you deal with the object, alam mo na kung ano yung tamang gagawin mo. Ito yung sinasabi natin kahalagahan ng pag-uugali, kahalagahan kalinangan ng pag-uugali ng ating mga mag-aaral. Okay? Kaya nga 'di ba nauso yung reflection papers. Okay? Na kapag for example, meron kayong outreach programs, okay, hindi naman nag-e-end doon sa community yung inyong activity. But the activity, any community service activity, any activity has to end with a processing. And the processing that I'm referring to is about a reflection paper so that students could be able to process the actions they did in the community and the responses of the community to the actions they offered to such community. Okay? It's merely an evaluation of everyday actions that we do in life. I think that makes us different from the brutes. What I mean by brutes, the lower form of animals. Ang pinagkaiba natin doon sa pinakamababang uri ng mga hayop, dahil hayop din naman tayo, hindi tayo lang ang pinakamataas na uri ng hayop. Okay, ang pinagkaiba natin sa mababang uri ng hayop ay yung ating kapangyarihan o kakayahang suriin kung tama at mali ang ating mga ginawa. At kakayahang matuto sa bawat maling ginagawa natin o sa bawat maling ating nagawa. Okay? So these are the different reasons why we need to study about attitudes. Okay? Any input on this? Okay. Now please take note that people will behave in ways consistent with their attitudes. People behave in ways consistent with their attitudes. Okay? So, behavior, okay? Behavior is broader than attitudes. Okay? Because when you already say about behavior, this is already the permanent thing about us. Okay? It's about how we already do things based on the lessons or learning we have out from our experiences, out from our previous actions. Okay? Si attitude kasi, it's a raw thing about us. Kasi may mga pagkakataon na negative yung pag-uugaling ipinakita natin dahil first time natin na-encounter ang isang bagay. Pero dahil sinuri natin yung ating ginawa at natuto tayo sa ating ginawa, ay naging mabuti na ang ating pakikitungo sa susunod na enkwentro natin doon sa nasabing bagay. And that's already our behavior. Our behavior refers to our actions as a result of our learning, okay? As a result of the lessons we learn from, okay, our previous experiences or previous encounter with things or with someone else. Okay? So before we continue our discussion, any question on the any question as regards the discussion? Jmar? Jmar, any question? How about Almira?
None po, sir.
Wala na. May sakit ka, Almira? Wala.
Wala, sir.
Ang boses mo parang may sakit. Joanne, any question, Joanne?
Sir,
Yes, Chard.
sir, di ba sabi mo, sir, na ang behavior is broader than attitude?
Mm-mm.
But then po, sir, na parang component lang ng attitude ang behavior, dun sa may behavioral intentions, sir.
Yeah. What do we mean by behavioral intentions there as a component is the action that we do about what we feel and about what we the actions that we do about what we perceive and about what we feel about something else. Kaya nga meron tayong dinugtong na intentions, behavioral intentions. But what make our real behavior is already the learned experience out from that behavioral intention.
Okay, sir.
Thank you for the clarification,
Noted po.
Chard. I forgot to discuss that a while back. Okay, thank you, Chard. Any more clarificatory questions? Ay, si Mary Joy Pasikolan ba at sa si Jean Marie Pasikolan kambal?
Hindi po, sir.
Ay, hindi. Magkano-ano kayo?
Wala lang, sir. Classmates po.
Wala lang. Kasi ba, parang magkahawig naman din kayo. Hindi kayo magkapatid talaga kayo?
Hindi, sir.
Hindi, sir. Parang ayaw mo, ha? Paka-violent na reaction mo, Jean Marie ba? Any question? Mary Joy, about you, any question? Jade Mar.
None po, sir.
None. Okay, then we continue. So we now proceed to the next focal concept, and that is about motivation. Okay. Motivation refers to reason or set of reasons for engaging in a particular behavior. So anything that drives you to keep going, anything that drives you to engage yourself doing something is what we call motivation. In Filipino, ito yung tatawag natin pagganyak. Yung kadahilanan kung bakit mo ginagawa ang isang bagay at patuloy na ginagawa ang isang bagay. That's why in the second bullet, it says, initiation, direction, intensity, and persistence of human behavior. Okay, our eagerness, it refers to the drive, okay, that the drive that allows us to keep going, to continue doing things. Okay, that's motivation. For example, why is it that you decided to continue your studies amidst the pandemic? Answering that question will let you identify your motivation why you keep studying. Sige nga, matanong ko ang iba sa inyo, bakit kayo nagpatuloy kahit alam niyo mayroong pandemic, kahit alam niyo na mahina ang internet connection niyo, kahit alam niyo na medyo mahihirapan kayo because it would require technological skills, kahit alam niyo na wala naman sa edad ang pagtatapos and others. Anyone who might want to answer my question?
Sir,
Yes, Rachel.
I don't want to be left behind
You
because
don't
it's difficult to be with other year level again, another group, another, and I've already invested I've already had emotional investment with my classmates now.
Okay, so
So I'm
what
attached.
okay, what drives you to continue your studies is because of your emotional attachment with your classmates.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you for sharing that out, Rachel. So that's your motivation. That's your reason why you keep going. How about the others? Nice kong marinig ang boses ni Benjamin. Benjamin, okay, may sagot si Richard. Sabi ni Richard, Sir, the expectations of my parents and relatives, sir, to graduate on time. Okay? But sometimes also our drive is because of the expectations of others. But of course, let me just remind everyone that we should not just live by the expectations of others, but we also have to live with the standards we set for ourselves. Okay? Not just with the expectations of others as regards us. Okay, but of course, that's also a motivation. That's also a reason for us to keep going. Jovert, meron ka daw tanong? Sabi ni John Paul. Jovert? Nawala siya. Jovert. Sabi ni Jmar, Sir, dahil hindi hadlang po ang pandemic sa pag-aaral, ang natuto na po ako, may purpose po ako why I want to study at alam ko pong mahirap. Okay? Of course, it's up to you to share your purpose, Jmar, but I appreciate that you decided to continue your studies amidst the difficulties or challenges that you are encountering. So, keep going, Jmar. I know you could be able to, I have seen you that later on you would become inspiring teacher for your students or for your pupils because of the experiences that you have while you are studying. Okay? Jovert sir, wala po, mahina kasi signal, di ako makapagsalita. Okay. Grade 5, what din Kwan sir? Okay, so we continue. Now, we proceed to the different theories as regards motivation. The first theory the first theory was proposed by Abraham Maslow in his hierarchy of human needs theory. Maslow believed that human beings have wants and desires. So katulad ng sinasabi nyo kanina, meron kayong mga desires, meron kayong mga gusto sa buhay, mga gustuhin sa buhay na kailangan matupad. At yung mga gustuhin iyon, yung mga what is Filipino by desires, yung mga inaasam-asam natin na mangyayari sa buhay natin. Ito yung nagsisilbing mga kadahilanan kung bakit tayo nagpapatuloy. At kung bakit ginagawa natin mga bagay-bagay na ginagawa natin. So, human beings have wants and desires which influence their behavior. Only unsatisfied needs can influence behavior. Satisfied needs cannot. For example, for me, why was it that I really did everything so for me to finish my studies? Okay? Because my need or my desire to uplift the condition of my family, to uplift the economic condition of my family. Yun kasi ang wala sa amin, kaya nagpursigi ako. So that's the meaning of the first statement. That only unsatisfied needs can influence behavior. Satisfied needs cannot. Kaya nga minsan kung titignan natin, bakit kaya ang mga mayayaman, kung sino pa ang merong, pero hindi naman lahat ng mayayaman, no? Kung sino pa yung merong pera para mapag-aral, kung sino pa yung merong mga means para makapagtapos ng pag-aaral, ay sila naman yung nagdoloko sa kanilang pag-aaral. Ito yung sinasabi ni Maslow, dahil hindi naman nila talaga kailangan na mag-aral para kumita ng pera. Okay? Pero yung mga mahihirap na nagpupursigi, Kasi nakikita nila na yung pag-aaral, yung pagtatapos ng pag-aaral, ang solusyon na lamang para makahanap sila ng magandang trabaho, eventually, para kumita ng pera para sa kanilang pamilya. Yung pera na wala sila. Okay? That was my motivation. That was my motivation when I was in college. That I really have to finish my college degree. So for me to get a decent job, and so for me to earn for my family. Okay? You know, when after elementary, okay, sabi ng tatay ko, ay, minto ka na sa pag-aaral mo, turuan na lang kita magkarpintero. Halimbawa, ganun, no? Sabi ng tatay mo, turuan na lang kita magkarpintero, huwag ka na mag-aral. Okay? At dahil nga gusto mo mag-aral, kaya nagpursige ka. That influenced your behavior towards your studies. Okay? As early as high school, I was no longer living with my family because I studied in a free school at the Sisters of Mary Boys Town Complex in Cavite. Okay? It's a free school from everything. Okay? Lahat libre. Pagkain, pag-aaral, tirahan, doon na kami nakatira, damit, lahat doon libre. Okay? I finished 4 years there. Okay? And then after that, okay, umuwi ako sa aming tahanan sa Andarayan. Then hindi pa kaya ng pera ng aking mga magulang na mapag-aral ako ng kolehiyo dahil nung panahon na iyon ay si ate ang kailangan makapagtapos ng kolehiyo. Okay? Yung ate ko yung nandiyan sa accounting, first window na accounting. Okay? So yun, so kailangan makapagtapos yung ate ko muna. So I was really problematic that time na kaya ko kaya. Then I stopped for a year. I worked as a baker for a year. Nagbenta ng pandesal for a year. Okay? Gumagawa ng homemade cards for a year. Okay? Nung mayroon ako nabalita na scholarship sa St. Louis about CISM scholarship, I tried my luck in the CISM scholarship. Okay? Umutang ako kasi that time, naka-enroll na ako, naipasa ko ang entrance exam, naka-enroll na ako, pero hindi pa ako nakuha sa CICM. Nasa waitlist ako. Okay? Ngayon, anong gagamitin ko anong gagamitin ko, yung tuition fee, yung allowance ko ng first few weeks, yung prelims ng first year, naubos na yung mga pato, yung mga manok na ibenta na, sahod ng tatay ko sa pagkakarpintero ay nagastos na bago pa matapos yung trabaho niya, okay, and others. So those were challenges, okay? Those were challenges that okay, those were the challenges then, okay? So sabi ko, paano kaya iyon? Okay, so yun nga, buti na lang, one day before the prelim exam, I was qualified in the CICM scholarship. So at least, CICM scholarship saved me. And nagtuloy-tuloy na, okay? And yeah, and eagerness to finish because I would like to improve the economic status of my family. So ganun yun, kung anong wala ka, yun ang pagpupursigihin mo para makuha. Okay? That's the theory of Abraham Maslow. Since needs are many, madami nating gusto sa buhay, di ba? Marami tayong kailangan sa buhay. They're arranged in order of importance from the basic to the complex needs. Sabi ni Maslow, the person advances to the next level of needs only after the lower level need is at least minimally satisfied. Okay, kung minimally satisfied na yung lower need, then we can proceed to the next level of needs. The further the progress up the hierarchy, the more individuality, humanness, and psychological health a person will show. Psychological is about contentment. This is about our self-actualization. Okay, now, we make use of this diagram to explain Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of human needs. Ito yun. Okay. Sabit lang ha, merong nag-miss call. Okay. Okay, so this is it. So the first level is biological and physiological need. Food, sleep, water. Okay, these are our basic needs. Followed by security, health, finances. That's safety need. So itong dalawa classified as basic needs. Okay? Then after minimally satisfying your a safety need, then there's love and belonging, friendship, intimacy, family connections. And after minimally satisfying this need, we have esteem, respect, status, recognition, strength, and self-esteem. These are what we call as psychological needs. And the last need is self-fulfillment needs or self-actualization, meeting one's full potential in life, different for every person. This is already about our contentment in life. If you're contented with what we have, with what we did, with everything that we currently have, then that would mean that you already have reached your self-actualization stage. Okay, so this is Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So sa tingin niyo, you try to check this out. Nasaang level na kayo ng inyong need? O saang level na kayo ng need niyo dyan? Buhay, mga kapatid, gising pa ba kayo?
Yes, sir.
O, Jovins,
Sir,
saan ka na dyan, Jovins?
Sir?
Saan ka
Sir,
na dyan?
sa
Saan?
esteem, sir.
Sa esteem ka
Esteem.
na.
True.
So people respect you.
Yes, sir.
What is your status in life now?
Wala, Charot. Just be, sir, a normal person with big heart.
Recognition,
Sir?
recognition, strength, and self-esteem. So, ibig sabihin, Jovins has minimally satisfied yung love and belonging already. Kaya nandun sa level na mahal niya ang kanyang sarili. Tama?
Very true, sir.
Okay. Na parang tanggap niya ang kanyang sarili, mahal niya ang kanyang sarili dahil sa pagmamahal na nakuha niya mula sa friends, family, and connections. Tama?
Yes, sir.
Okay. How about the others?
Si Ron ata, sir, nasa safety pa lang ata.
Sino?
Si Ron Matthew daw, sir.
Nasa safety. Ron, bakit nasa safety, Ron? So, you're secured, you're healthy, you have financial stability. Okay? So, masyadong mataas na kay Jovins, malapit na sa self-actualization. Ang problema lang kasi dito, pag nandun ka na sa tama din naman, talagang dito na siya kasi minimally satisfied na siya sa mga ganito. Eh, mayaman naman kasi sila. Si Jovins.
Sir, wala kang kaming bahay, sir.
Walang bahay, ganda nga ng bahay niya sa mga videos mo ay.
Sir, kapit bahay namin yun, sir.
Bahay ka dyan, tumigil ka nga. Okay. About the others. Ron, bakit nakapagsasalita ba si Ron? Si Ron. Bakit sa safety ka na?
Po?
Sa safety ka na?
Opo, sir, safety.
Bakit wala pa sa love and belonging?
Sir, medyo hindi ko ba kasi gets yung hierarchy gano'n.
Yung hierarchy gaano. Okay, very good. Buti na lang tinanong ko. Okay. So, ang ibig sabihin nito, Ron, is ang hierarchy is about the needs that we have in life. So, we have different needs in life. Marami tayong mga pangangailangan sa buhay. Okay? Pero ang sinasabi ni Abraham Maslow, okay, hanggat hindi nasasatisfy, kahit minimal satisfaction, yung pinakamababang pangangailangan o pinakamababang mithiin ng tao ay hindi rin siya makakapunta doon sa mga pangangailangan mas mataas pa. Okay. Halimbawa, look at this. Bakit may mga doon sa mga slum areas, doon sa mga slum areas, bakit marami sa kanila ang hindi nakapag-aaral? Bakit marami sa kanila bakit marami sa kanila ang hindi malulusog? Bakit marami sa kanila nagkakasakit halimbawa lamang? Kasi nga dito pala sa umpisa ay hindi pa nila na-satisfy yung need nila for proper food intake, for sleep and for water. Okay, kasi ito yung basic Okay. Once you already have satisfied all these things, at least minimally satisfied all these things, yung pinaka-lower need ninyo, saka kayo mag-move upward sa mga iba pang mga needs. Okay, yun yung sinasabi ni Abraham Maslow. Okay, for example, sa akin, okay, nag-aral ako ng mabuti. Okay, nag-aral ako ng mabuti para magkaroon kami ng sapat na pagkain at syempre tubig. Okay, yung pangangailangan sa pagkain. At para na sa ganun, ay magkaroon din kami ng pera, with security and finances. Ngayon, meron na ako niyan. Minimally satisfied na iyan. Okay? Now, I also have to, pagkatapos ko masatisfy itong mga to, that's time that I have to gain friends. Okay, that I have to be in a relationship. Pero yan, wala ako yan. That I have to that I have to build a family of my own and connections. But because I'm already satisfied with my friends and my family, my immediate family, kaya andito na rin ako ngayon. Okay, andito na, but I didn't, hindi pa ako kontento sa kung anong kinalalagyan ko ngayon. Actually, nandito pa lang ako sa dito sa may esteem. Okay? Because I think I am respected. I think I already have gained respect from people. Sa estado ko ngayon sa buhay, okay naman. Recognition, yes, I'm recognized by, my contributions to the school and even to my family and my community is being recognized. Strength, yeah, I can live independently. And because of this, I learned to accept who I am as I am. Okay? So that's it. So I am already here. Pero ito self-actualization, wala pa ako nito kasi marami pa akong gusto sa buhay. Marami pa akong gusto marating sa buhay na makapagbibigay sa akin ng satiability, makapagbibigay sa akin ng contentment. Okay? Ito yung sinasabi natin na man is an insatiable being. What do you mean insatiable being? Man cannot easily be contented with what we have. As much as we have these desires, as much as we have these needs, we keep going. We keep chasing these needs. We keep chasing these desires until such time that we will reach that contentment. And that contentment, that satiability will already dictate our self-actualization. Okay? Ron, okay na ba, Ron?
Okay na po, sir. Thank you po.
Okay. O, saan ka na ngayon?
Sa love tsaka belonging. Love/belonging.
Okay, so love and belonging. So you have you have friends, no?
Yes, sir.
You have girlfriend.
Yes, sir.
Okay, bakit mo tawa? Okay, you have family.
Yes, sir.
Of course, and connections. Okay? So good. So we continue. Now we proceed now to another theory of motivation, though it's more of a workplace orientation or job orientation, but we can make use of this in the classroom setting or in the learning atmosphere. Okay, it's Herzberg's two-factor theory. According to Herzberg, ito po si Herzberg, okay? According to Herzberg, certain factors in the workplace result in job satisfaction. So, parang there are reasons why people in a workplace, why employees, okay, are satisfied with the work given to them, with the job given to them, while others are not satisfied. Okay? But what led to dissatisfaction and what led to satisfaction? He distinguished between two important things. Herzberg's, okay, distinguished between motivators and the other one are hygiene factors. Okay. What do we mean by motivators? Motivators, okay, refer to things that would give positive satisfaction for employees. For example, challenging work, recognition, and responsibility given to them. Okay, for example, I applied, I am working in USL, not because that USL provides me a very comparable, or a very good salary. It's good, but it's not that very good. Okay, a good salary compared to public institutions. Okay, na mas mataas ang sahod nila, na mas maraming benepisyo, mas pinili ko ang USL. Okay, bakit? It's not because of the salary, but because, okay, I am given challenging job or challenging work that permits me to explore my potentials, that permits me to discover, okay, my skills, okay, to even hone, to even advance my skills as a professional teacher and as an educational leader. I chose to stay in USL because USL never failed. Okay, USL never fails to recognize my contribution, to recognize my efforts, okay, as a productive employee of the university. I chose USL because they've trusted me. Okay, they've trusted me with things that I believe that others couldn't be able to do, couldn't be able to consider me as such. The responsibilities USL have given me is a manifestation of their trust in my ability and their trust in my capacity as an employee. So hindi lamang sahod ang dahilan. That's my motivation to keep going in USL. Okay? There are also hygiene factors. Bakit tinawag na hygiene factors yung mga ito? Yung mga status mo, job security, salary, and fringe benefits. These are hygiene factors. Bakit tinawag na hygiene factors? Tinawag ni Herzberg na hygiene factors ang mga ito dahil kung wala ang mga ito, kung wala ang hygiene, hindi magiging healthy. Hindi ka magiging healthy kung wala kang hygiene practices. Pero kung meron kang mga hygiene practices, mas magiging healthier. Okay? Yung buhay mo sa isang kumpanya. Okay? So ito yung mga status mo, promotion. We mean promotion here, job security, tenureship, kung permanent ka na o hindi, yung salary mo kung mataas o hindi, o comparable, yung mga benefits mo and others, additional benefits mo and others. Okay? The hygiene factors do not motivate if they are present. But if these hygiene factors are not, okay, are absent, or they are not, if these hygiene factors are nowhere to be found in the company, then this may result to demotivation. Okay? So it will not affect the motivation of someone else. Okay, these hygiene factors may not necessarily affect the motivation of someone else. But if these are absent, then it may demotivate. Okay? It may demotivate the employees. Okay? For us to clearly understand, okay, this theory, we proceed to this diagram. So this is Herzberg's, should I say, two-factor theory. The motivators, we have this, and the hygiene factor. Down arrow ang ginamit dyan because this may, the absence of these may demotivate employees. Okay? But this one, okay, these are the reasons why employees are motivated, are satisfied with their job. Okay, advancement, we are referring to training, okay, activities that would advance the skills or further the advance of the employees. Okay, so if there's high motivation and high hygiene factor, okay, mas okay. Okay, if there's high motivation but low hygiene factor, okay lang din. If there's low motivation but high hygiene factor, hindi ganun ka-okay. Pero kapag low motivation plus low hygiene factor, there's dissatisfaction. So this would tell us that this would look at this. Even if there's low hygiene factor, it does not affect your motivation. But if there's low hygiene factor, it may lead to low hygiene factor while at the same time low motivation, it may lead to job dissatisfaction. Okay. Now, how will we apply this, okay, in the classroom setting? For example, please do not be confused, no? Herzberg theory, two-factor theory may be likened to the intrinsic and extrinsic motivation. The hygiene factors may be considered the extrinsic motivation, while motivators may be considered the extrinsic motivation. Intrinsic motivation, it's coming from within. Ito kasi, outside factors and hygiene factors. Okay? For example, alam nyong mahirap ang maging isang teacher o mahirap ang kumuha ng education as a program or as a degree. Bakit nagpapatuloy pa rin kayo? Hindi naman ganun kalaki ang sahod. Bakit nagpapatuloy pa rin kayo sa kurso nyo? Sige, tingnan natin kung motivators yan or hygiene factors. Anyone? Romel? Romel? Okay, so we will continue our discussion next meeting because it's already 5:57 and I'm giving you 5 minutes. We extend for 2 minutes to share your learning takeaway through the chat box. Okay, so time for the learning takeaway sharing. Sir, is self-actualization really possible or attainable given that we have unlimited wants and desires? Yeah, it's ourself who will dictate whether we are already contented or not. There are people who are not actually reaching that stage because they find themselves discontented or difficult to be contented with things. Ito yung sinasabi natin. Later we will discuss that in the other theories because there's another theory after Herzberg theory. There's other theory that we have to deal with. Okay, Jovert? So the time is the remaining time is given for the sharing of learning takeaways. While you're doing that, sabi ni Jovert, sabi ni John Paul, as it always necessary to follow the pyramid or we can jump high stage po. John Paul, merely these are theories, okay? We need not to consider the theory as exactly right or exactly correct. But of course, these are just proposals from theorists as regards human motivation. Okay? Sometimes a certain theory may apply to us, but a different theory may apply to others. Okay? Please take note that theories are merely wild guess or scientific guess about things or to explain things. Okay? Kaya nga marami tayong mga teoryang tinatalakay tungkol sa pagganyak nang sa ganoon na makita natin kung ano mga teorya ang nagagamit natin sa buhay natin. Okay? Sabi ni Jovert, are there some instances where hygiene factors can also considered as motivators? In our discussion later, as regards motivation, there are two types. Based from these different theories, we can now classify motivation into two types. That is extrinsic and intrinsic. Okay, titignan natin yan later, Jovert. Okay? John Paul, sir, siguro it has something to do with our intelligence and syempre may ibang factors din. Yeah, kaya nga maraming mga teorya upang ipaliwanag ang pagganyak o motivation. Okay, titingnan natin yan later in the continuation of our discussion on Monday. Okay, so please make use of the time for your learning takeaway sharing. We will automatically end at 6:05 or at 6:05. After 6:05, pag ni-stop recording ko na, that would mean if you fail to share or submit your learning takeaway, then that would mean that you will be getting 0 in the activity. Yeah, that's true. That's true. That's true, Jovins. Only evaluation can bring change, because we can never change if we are not to evaluate our actions. Thank you. Thank you, Jovins. Is that your learning takeaway, Jovins? Okay, so marami nang pumapasok. We will just be posting your learning takeaway in our LMS. Okay, so for us to have a transcript of your participation in today's Google Meet discussion. Okay, according to Roz, we should evaluate and reflect our attitudes so that we will be able to learn from it and we're able to do it in very positive way. Yeah, I think every day is an opportunity for us to improve ourselves. And improving ourselves would mean that we learn from our experiences, because that makes us different from the brutes, as we have said a while back. Wendy said, "Sir, for me, I realized that I should not only rely my decisions on the pressure coming from my peers, but also on what makes me really feel happy." Yeah, that's true. The best motivator is our own self, because even though there were lots of motivation, if we don't want to be motivated, they are useless. Yeah, that's why there's what we call as intrinsic motivation. The motivation that should drive us do things, that should drive us to keep going, should be coming from within us. Okay, thank you, Wendy. That's a wonderful sharing. Jessamine said, "I think that the theory of Abraham Maslow serves as human motivation that helps everyone in fulfilling and developing personal growth." Yeah, that's true. That motivation is what drives you to continue and keep going in life despite the different circumstances in life. Yeah, we are humans, and we are, as much as possible, we have to demonstrate dodo gasgas man, yung resiliency na term. But I think the challenges that we have in life have to motivate us to continue doing things, to continue doing what we want, so that we could be able to reach our goals, our life goals. Charlemagne said, "What I realized is that before making a decision or action in life, we must first evaluate ourselves or reflect on our own experiences." Okay? Or reflect on our own experiences, because what we learn from our experiences will motivate us and able us to foresee our future. That's very true. Charlemagne, Charlemagne, I'm really now appreciating you, because I think you're performing well now compared to the last semester. Okay, I really love your progress, Charlemagne. I'm seeing that indeed you are improving a lot in our subject. Okay, thank you for letting yourself, okay, letting yourself improve, okay, in this course. Kasi nung previous, no, sorry, I have to share because I cannot help myself but to share my appreciation to this person. I really admire Charlemagne because I have seen his progress from assessment 1 to assessment to today's course, to this semester's course, should I say. And of course, I also admire John Paul for realizing that he really needs to attend our class because in the previous meetings, okay, he failed, I think, to attend, maybe because he's busy with equally important things. Attitude is how we feel and how we turn that feeling into action. Wow, that's a good input. The important thing is we know how to properly act our feeling in front and behind people because that will suggest that we are true and authentic person to those people around us. So dito pumapasok yung making learning more authentic and more real because we value people's attitudes. We value people's perspectives about things, people's way of seeing things or seeing concepts in others. Isaiah, I've realized based on Maslow's hierarchy of needs that we should prioritize what is essential to our daily life. First, such as basic needs, which are the food, shelter, and other necessities. Also, our safety and health before having a higher goals in life, such as career. That can be applicable in teaching profession. As teachers, we should cater the needs of the students first before having greater learning object. Yeah, that's very true. That's why that's why we really have to yung existential needs na tinatawag, yung basic needs na tinatawag natin. Meron kasi teacher na ayaw niya mag-yawn ng estudyante sa loob ng klase. But yawning is a basic need. That has to be satisfied, di ba? Anyway, we will be dealing on this, on the details of the other theories in our next Google Meet by next week. That will be on Monday next week. Okay? So, thank you for attending our class for today. Talagang maraming nag-attend sa inyo and I really appreciate that. I really love seeing you all attending our Google Meet and sharing your learning takeaways. Okay? To end our class, may we end our class with a closing prayer, and may we listen from Lovernil. Lovernil, please.
Hello, sir.
Sige na, wala nang umiiyak.
So let us pray in the name of the Father, Son, the Holy Spirit. Amen. Lord, as we close our discussion, we ask you, Lord, to help us in all our needs, and also thank you, Lord, for this wonderful opportunity that we have learned today, and for the knowledge and wisdom that we will continue to harbor. Bless us, O Lord, with your mercy and wisdom. We thank you, Lord, for everything, and with us always. Amen.
Amen. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Goodbye, class, and thank you for attending.
Bye, sir.
Bye, sir.
Bye, sir. Thank you, sir.
Bye, sir.
Bye,
Bye po, sir. Thank you
sir!
po.
Bye-bye.